And welcome to the Brand Fatherhood series, a series of pláticas about identity, culture, decolonizing fatherhood, and ending toxic cycles of machismo in the familia. And just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. We have simultaneous Spanish interpretation available. To get it, just go to the bottom of your screen and click the globe interpretation button at the bottom and select Spanish. Y en español, si necesitan, tenemos interpretación en español disponible. Si desea utilizarla, haga clic en el icono del globo abajo, de la parte de abajo de su pantalla y seleccione español. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the talk. To submit your questions, please utilize the Q&A section, Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen to submit your questions. We may not get to all of the questions, but we will do the best that we can do. And if we experience any technical difficulties, please stay on or attempt to log back on. But best just try to stick around and usually works itself out. Recordings, we will have a recording of the talk. It will be made available in both English and Spanish, as well as a transcript of the talk. You'll receive it in your email at the end of within an hour or two of the conversation. Now, without further ado, let's introduce our speakers. We have our very own jefa in charge, Leslie Priscilla. She is a first-generation non-Black Chicana mother to 3 bicultural children. She is the founder of Latinx Parenting. She resides on the unceded Tonga and Ahashem land and is of Raramuri lineage. She has over 14 years experience working with Latinx parenting, parents, children, and families who are practicing new ways of connecting and increasing their capacity for thriving while sustaining their cultural values. Our plática today will be with Hector Luis Rivera, who is a Bronx-born Boricua, songwriter, singer, dancer, musician, educator, organizer, healer, Reiki master, meditation and mindfulness practitioner and coach, a visionary, a father and grandfather living in the Tonga territory, also known as Long Beach, California. He is a director of Peace Inside Out, an organization dedicated to personal and community transformation through arts, restoration, community, and health. Peace Inside Out was developed out of decades of informed practice as an organizer, educator, artist, and healer. Hector also directs Taller Bulla, a Puerto Rican bomba workshop. And now, without further ado, and welcome to the conversation. Enjoy.
Thank you, Violeta. Thank you. And Violeta is amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so honored to be working with her and to have her here today. She is actually going to be coming back around the Q&A time. We're going to try to be done with our conversation, not fully done, but we're going to give space for questions, answers, comments, engagement about 15 minutes before the hour is over. But Hector, I'm so excited. We pre-gamed yesterday. I shared on IG too. I was like, we had a little pre-game action because I feel like that's so helpful to me just in terms of knowing what the energy of the conversation could be. And it just made me so much more pumped for today to connect with you yesterday. And so because we're talking about fatherhood, I do want to start with talking about you and your identity as a father and any other hats that you wear that are related to that. What has your experience been like? Who are you a father to? Who was your father? Things like that. So let's talk about fatherhood.
Oh man. Well, first I want to say hi to everybody out there. Thanks for joining in, and thank you, Leslie, for your vision to have this discussion. This is the second year you've done this, yeah?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. Fatherhood. I'm the son to Hector Luis Rivera Cintron, Senior. I am Junior, even though growing up, I did not want to be called Junior. My name is Hector Luis Rivera. But yeah, that's a fascinating one. I'm a father to Taina Alejandra Bravo Rivera, who just became a mother herself, to a beautiful daughter, Ember, which is such a beautiful name. I keep holding that one to heart. Little Ember that's gonna keep the fire lit. And I'm also a father to Tonali Luis Rivera. He's gonna be 10 years old in a few weeks. Young boy, beautiful, just full of energy and full of mindfulness and full of autonomy. Beautiful boy. Yeah, so I'm, born in the Bronx and raised, and but from a huge extended family, I think, with the big net of unconditional love. Like,
Yeah, it's interesting because you talk about Tonali, who I've had the honor and privilege of meeting. I know Melody, your wife. You've been to our house for dinner. Like we, have been in connection for a few years now, and I'm very curious about Tonali right now because I know my daughter Hallie as a 10-year-old right now, and it's very different than she was even 2 or 3 years ago. But what has it been like? I think because you've had two separate fathering experiences. It's the same experience as a father, but you've had two very different experiences. And I would love for you to share a little bit more about that journey, fathering your daughter, what that has been like, and then maybe moving into, what it's been like to father Tonali, and maybe, just whatever you would want to share with us around that journey and what that was like for you.
Yeah, let's talk about it. I became a father when I was 22, and I was studying at Cornell University, Ithaca, New York, upstate. Beautiful, beautiful native territory. I mean, Haudenosaunee is some of the most beautiful areas over there. And so yeah, a young man. I was in college, working two jobs, um, and raising this beautiful child. And what did we know? But we had some good instincts. We really did. My daughter was born in Superstorm 93, 44 inches of snow, March 14. And so I remember that day. I'll never forget those days. We were blessed to be guided to have to try and connect with a birthing center. And this is all the way in the 90s, 93,
Yeah, that's
before.
different. People don't really do that in the 90s.
Yeah, it's, of course, this midwifery and doulas have been around ever since. But that wasn't a huge conversation as it is now, thanks to everyone. And Brian says he remembers that day.
He remembers that day.
Yeah, it was a lot of snow all over the East Coast, really. And so, yeah, we had a birthing center, but we were in Ithaca, and the birthing center was in Syracuse, like an hour away, 45 minutes. Yeah, what can I say? I'm stuck remembering that wonderful, like, huge event where literally we had we get to Syracuse, and Melissa, Dana's mom, was having contractions, so we head to Syracuse. Okay, tranquilo, we're going real slow, snowy roads. We get there, we go to the supermarket eventually, and we see everything is gone, and the shelves. We're like, what is going on? And we hear Superstorm 93. I'm like, oh, that's what's happening. Wonderful. So, anyways, by the time she was ready to go, it was like 4 a.m. The firemen come. So Syracuse Town Fire Department, Syracuse Town Police, Syracuse Town grounds people, Syracuse University grounds people, Syracuse University security. It was like 5-6 vehicles with their lights blaring, and snow coming down, and I was just cracking up. That's all I could do is crack up while this is happening. And thank God,
How old were you, really, really quickly? How old were you?
22. And my
22.
Melissa, Dana's mom, was probably 23. So we're youngsters. But it's such a beautiful blessing. I remember having to cut the umbilical cord, and just like in Tonali's birth, the same thing. A doctor comes to me, okay, boom, or the midwife in Tonali's case, you want to cut the umbilical cord? And I have no words to say. I just back up. I'm like in the cartoons, when the cartoon, they go like this. Let me see. That was me. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm not good with that. But Not at all. I'm there, present. It was so good. I had some good instincts, remembering like
Yeah.
moaning and sound and all these things that were helpful during the waves and everything. As a youngster, thinking back now, eventually, as a youngster, I did not have a lot of emotional intelligence. I didn't know what was going on with me emotionally, what was going on.
Yeah.
It was a hard time. We were both going through changes and going through hard psychological changes, to be honest.
Yeah.
And the only thing I remember was I had these feelings inside of me. I won't get into why exactly, but part of it was just, we're just two different people growing up and learning who we are and not knowing that we were doing that. And it's hard sometimes. Um, there's more to it. But I remember just having strong feelings and feeling like, that's not a place where I want my daughter to live, to grow up. When we're feeling these strong feelings like this and we don't know what the hell's going on and I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I had to make a hard decision. I felt like the best thing was to separate, but I didn't want to separate from my daughter. So that was so hard.
Yeah.
Oof, that was so hard. That was probably one of the hardest things I ever did in my life, was like, this is the right decision, I think. And looking back, it wasn't. I think in that moment, it is what it is. And yeah, being away from my daughter too. And so that wound up being a challenging time for the next 5 years, really, as a young man. But I was blessed to eventually find my way back to New York and find some wonderful people that were not only organizers, but healers as well. And so that was connected. Nowadays we're coming back full circle in a big way. Like, oh, hey, organizers, we need some healing work, don't we? We need to look at ourselves instead of how we look at outside and fix the world outside. We need to look at inside and how that outside is also inside. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do. And we spoke to this a little bit yesterday around, and I shared with my friend Esteli. I don't know if she's here right now, but I was like, it's interesting because sometimes when I ask people, like, are you coming to the Brown Fatherhood series? It's like, well, I'm not a brown father. Like, I'm not, I can't relate or whatever. And I'm just like, we need so much more messaging, I think, around how everything is interconnected and
we're universal. I'm universal. You're universal. That's right.
Nothing is separate. These conversations are not applicable, like they're always going to be applicable because we're talking identity and we're talking like truth, right? And your story is intertwined with everybody else's story, right? So I just think it's really beautiful that like you were able to go back and really also share that message, right? That what we are doing on the inside is just as important as what we're doing on the outside. I remember last year around, the racial reckoning that happened after the murder of George Floyd. There was a lot of activism and a lot of like action being initiated. And yet a lot of these people still believe in violence against children, and still believe in inequities in other ways. And so if we're applying principles of justice and liberation to the external world, then it only makes sense that we do that inner work, that we are looking inward to be able to say, what are the ways that I find myself unliberated? What are the ways that I am raising my children, in oppressive ways? If I'm fighting oppression, what am I doing in my home? And
that
so
mirror, I gotta look at that mirror all the time.
Yes, exactly. I'm so curious about what that looking into the mirror has been like for you, because you said that even at 22 you were very instinctual. Like there was a lot of yesterday we were talking about channeling, right? We were talking about what it feels like to receive certain energy and how to like transmute that energy. And so what has, I guess, fatherhood, like what has being a father to these children done for you at that level, at that energetic level, at that reflection level, etc.?
Wow, several things. The one is just the beautiful blessing of just being with a baby. There's nothing to say. This is your daughter. This is your child. Oh man, there's no words for that, to feel that. So that was a beautiful blessing. And just to watch them just unfold and grow, and their curiosity. That's one of the biggest values I hold, is curiosity about the world, like, oh, and to see it, how a baby expresses it, a young person, looking at their hands like, oh, wow, what is this? That's one of the biggest teachers in the world right there, is just curiosity. And I had the blessing of having almost 20 years apart, like having another child 20 years later almost. And so there was a strong moment. I remember when Taina was living with us in Santana. Tonali was 2, and my voice is cracking already just talking about it. Like, I remember looking at Tonali and then turning to Taina and said, oh, me and your mom separated right about his age. Oh my God, it's hard.
Yeah.
Fast forward to a few weeks ago, we were, Melody and Tonali, visiting Ember and Taina. And here's like just another opportunity to grow, to we, I can say this now, we didn't specifically talk about any challenges that me and Taina have, but you could see and feel the energy just changing and evolving, because now she's a mother, and now she's like, has a new connection to herself, in essence. And yeah, I don't know. So you can see this change. And I feel so privileged and blessed that I'm like, I'm still going. I'm 50 years old. I growing up in the Bronx, I didn't think I was going to make it this far. And here I am, still going. I'm looking forward to, to when Ember's 20, whatever it is, if I make it that far, So there's a lot to learn. I think children are such good teachers. I love what we were saying about like, and we were talking about this a little bit yesterday, but like outside and inside, right? It's kind of like Black Elk, Black Elk in Black Elk Speaks talks about the bowl and the ember, again, ember, right? And the fire in the bowl. And basically talking about what we believe, peace inside out. How can we find this inside out? And I learned that specifically, not only with my children, but also with my father. We're talking about fatherhood, seeing my father suffer, seeing him be afraid when I went through political persecution for being anti-colonial organizer, decolonizing Puerto Rico. I grew up in a time that free the land was a mantra, free the land, in the 80s and 90s. And so when I went under repression, my dad, who's a marathon runner, he has hundreds of trophies in a room from winning marathons from age 40 and up. He started running again. He was a runner in high school and started running again when he was, I think, 44. He started running again. And then he started winning trophies again. Boom, boom. Won first in his age group. Incredible story. So healthy man, stress and fear of political repression, of me going to jail during the Patriot Act, caused him to get heart attacks. And that was one of the really strongest moments in my life where I said, oh, wow, all these different moments seeing my children. But that was another one. It was this, we need to work on in here. I can't be raging all the time, fighting the system. I had to deal with that fear of, am I going to jail? Am I getting locked up? Am I getting railroaded? Because I believe in the independence of Puerto Rico. There's a history of that. I already knew it. So that story was strong in my head. And I had to still work, but also be like, watch my back everywhere I'm going. And that's that type of feeling. It's just a very stressful feeling. And I had to learn new ways to like, hey, I'm going to be all right. I'm going to be okay. And I'm more prepared when I'm calm than if I'm tensed up. I had to walk my way through this whole thing through my own way. so that I can be a better person. So I can be a better person for my kids. So I can be a better person for me. So I can be a better partner. So I'm not tensed up and all ready to fight all the time, as we from the East Coast can be. Don't hate on us.
But I mean, like something that you said that is so crucial is like the stress, you know, and like I feel like so many, whether you come from Puerto Rico, whether you come from Mexico, whether like your family, you know, grew up somewhere impacted by colonization and oppression and erasure of, you know, indigenous practices and like all of like so much physical displacement, but also so much spiritual, emotional displacement, right? Simultaneously. And so I'm wondering, like, what were some of your models growing up? You talked about your dad, you know, experiencing that stress from you when you were in, you know, in your batalla, right? Like in your like warrior kind of phase where you're like, I'm gonna go. And I experienced something very similar to that, where I was like, I'm going to every protest I can go to, and like, because there's an anger that rises, and I feel like that anger is purposeful, and we want to at some point know what to do with that anger, right? And to really like begin to reevaluate. But I'm really curious about your father and what the experience was of him even prior to that, even when you were younger. Like, was he somebody who would talk to you? Was he somebody that would sit with you very much in the ways that I'm sure you sit with Donali, you know, and engage with you? Like, were you able to be aware of him because there was a connection, or was there friction at all?
I love my father. I love him so much. I see all my ancestors, and this is a tough question right now. Maybe we can go into it more as I tell the story.
Yeah.
Even my ancestor who violated me as a kid. That's a hard one. They were here on this earth full of gravity, and now he's a spirit and a soul, and he's learning whatever lesson he needed to learn.
Yeah.
And that one's a hard one that I've been trying to deal with. But my father, man, blessed man, this man, he grew up in Guayama, Puerto Rico. That's the southeast coast, one of the first major cities, right? San Juan, Guayama is a port. Mayagüez is another port. Ponce is another port. It's famous where his part in Guayama, actually, this is his home where he grew up. This is in Guayama. Right behind me is his home. Huge extended family. My grandmother, her brother and sister grew up with my grandmother. Married my grandmother, brother and sister married my grandfather, sister and brother.
Oh.
Three siblings.
Whoa.
And all lived in that town right there, in that behind me in that area, called Puente Jobo and El Porto de Jobos. Side note, that's a place where Cofresi, a pirate, used to liberate enslaved Africans and liberate them in that port.
Oh, snap. That's beautiful. That's awesome.
So where did they work? Where did my grandfather work? Where did my father work? My father, because he was smart with numbers, he had a step up job from cutting cane. He was the one that counted. So people brought the things to him and he counted the toneladas and write it down. You know, he has that doctor's handwriting. So I think about that all the time. I think about his father. I think about my great grandparents. I've been looking into their names. I've got as far as great grandparents' names. So we're talking about, like, I remember going from Puente Jobo to another town, Salinas, in the dark at 9:00 and feeling like, whoa, my hairs are standing. Even thinking about it right now, hairs are standing. What was next to me on these roads? I could feel it. 2 giant plantations.
Wow.
That's where they worked. That's exactly where they worked. My ancestors worked right down the block from that home right there. And what is that like? Everyone knows what colonialism is. Everyone knows what slavery is. Slavery is complete control, mentally, physically, spiritually, as much as possible. And we find ways to resist as much as possible. And so what happened? what happened to men, to everyone? There was a great fear because of great violence.
Yes.
And that's inside of us. Colonialism is violence. Entonces, you know, the idea of kids better be in line because master's gonna kill me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna kill you first. In other words, crazy, right? But
Yeah.
that was like the thing, stay in line like that. And that kept going throughout life, throughout generations and generations, you know. Oh, we're gonna lose our food stamps, we're gonna lose
Yeah.
our welfare, or whatever it is, right?
Oh
So
yeah,
that
I have
fear
stories.
is so embodied, right?
Yeah,
It's so
I
embodied.
remember. That just brought up, like, the food stamps thing brought up just how much pressure I experienced as a child who had to, like, prove my academic worth so that we could continue to get Section 8 housing, right? Because I was single, like my mom was a single mom, we had Section 8 housing, and so I had to maintain a certain GPA in order for the cost of the rent to stay down.
Crazy. That's all much pressure on you.
That's still happening. That's not happening anymore. There's still kids out here, right? Like, this is in Santana. Like, there's still kids out here that are feeling that pressure. And, like, guess what happened when I would get a D? I would get it at home. You know, I would get it at home. And why aren't you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. And I mean, like, it was, and that's like a verbal violence, right? And so, but that's still the state. Like, we are still very much experiencing, you know, attempts at conquest, right? Like, attempts at subjugating and marginalizing us. And our parents have this level of stress, or had this level of stress, that you can't separate enough from that to really look at it.
You know, that's why I love the idea. I mean, let's look at the context now, to be honest. Winter, a lot of super uncertainty, Omicron everywhere, the fears everywhere,
Yeah.
a lot of, you know, wealth gap, even huge. The feeling that from all sides of the political spectrum, that government's maybe not serving us in a good way.
Yep.
And so that's a real tough context right there.
Right.
And that's no way of, I can't paint that with a beautiful paint. That's just the context, period. But what is the context inside of us? How can we be autonomous? That's what my father taught me. That's what my grandfather taught me. How can, even within that context, still believe in independence, still believe that we can be interdependent, still believe that we can hold our own and find ways to thrive? That's self-awareness. That's awareness of our own power. And so that's a faith that's inside. And you know, it manifested in different ways through their service through church and Catholicism, and through the family, huge family. There's probably 200 of us in the South Bronx right now.
Yeah.
So at any time and any day, there's at least 20 of us together somewhere, family.
Yeah.
That means on any day I could go anywhere almost anywhere in the Bronx and get fed somewhere.
Yeah.
If I don't have food. So that was a huge safety net. That was what, in the poorest district in the nation at that time, 9,000. I remember reading in the 90s, the median income in the South Bronx was 9,500, something like that, a year. How did we survive? How did we survive with only 35,000 a year, 5 kids? How did they do that? That takes community. That takes us.
Yeah.
It takes us, right? And so I learned that from my father, that even though they worked in the plantation, even though they were poor, even though all these things, the word is super important. And just acknowledging another human being and respecting another human being is important. Everyone's important. Everyone. Now, of course, there's, you know, that's not so easy. There's misogyny. There's all these stories that we learned. There's different things. There's different costumbres that they learned, that I judge sometimes, right?
Yeah.
From my vantage point. From my vantage point.
Thank you for being so real about that, because I feel like the more we destigmatize like how violent we are, everybody, right? Just like the way that we see people as less than their sacredness, is to me a kind of violence, right? And so
Right.
to me, the more that we destigmatize the fact that all of us can be this way, like all of us can be violent by the judgments, by the shaming, by the, not looking at the possibility, right? Like we see people and we're like, that's
the
you, like,
possibility.
yes, we don't see the possibility of them anymore. And there's so many Black and brown men that have been just like, shoved to the outskirts of society from that got to that place because of so much woundedness, so much pain. And we've just told them that we no longer see possibility for them. Right.
Can I
And
ask men out there? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
You're making me think about that. Oh, such a question I've been asking a lot. Like, I reflect on things. It's my approach in life. Sometimes I think about things with my curiosity. I have a theory, and then I go out there and start asking people, "What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think?" And sometimes I'll read a book, but mostly I ask people. But I want to ask men, and even women identified too. Like, have you ever heard a male identified person say, "I am afraid"? Serious question. Not so much. No. So what we hold so much because we have to be brave, this idea. And sometimes this idea of going out in the darkness without light, even without a flashlight. Look, no, 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 nunca, no, no, no. Son las respuestas.
Few times, mostly when they're in ICU deathbed.
Shit, stop. Lord have mercy. We have to create that environment within ourselves first, and then with the ones that are around us. But it's not just men, it's all of us. How many of us, we're going through a hard time right now, this craziness, and I'm afraid. Just say it. It's okay. Not to be overwhelmed by it, but to have awareness of it. Like, here, this is what this is. And then I can calm that fear with practices. It takes daily practices. This water is good for me, right? I can't just drink it once. Oh, I did it. I got to drink all day, right? Every day. It's a daily practice. So that's for me, it's the same thing. When I started going through the repression, when I went through police brutality and I'm grinding my teeth, I'm noticing these things, and I'm like, hey, man, this is not good for me. And so how can I calm down? How can I? And then I take my medicine and I say, I know this is good. I could feel it. I see it. I see the growth. Let me share it with others. That's it. It's really that simple because I want us all to thrive. One of the biggest values I have is this idea that we're all important, that we're all connected, but also an idea of sovereignty, sitting up nice and tall, just like a beautiful tree. That tree is sovereign and of course interconnected.
Yes, I love, love, love the word sovereignty. And you and I connected on this a little bit yesterday because you talked about the power of word, and I shared with you that, like, I also am very drawn to word and poetry and write my own a little bit. And one of the books that I read very early on in my journey, my daughter was less than one probably, was a book that's like, I think you can see it right there. It's called, like, this one, Everyday Blessing by John Kabat-Zinn and Mila Zinn, his wife. And it's mindfulness, like it's a book on mindfulness. And it starts off talking about, like, it has a story about, I forget actually exactly what the story is, but the whole purpose of it was to demonstrate the sovereignty of each individual, right? And be very aware of our projections onto that sovereignty. And it's applicable to our children, that the book is about children and raising them. But how can you think about the way that you are being with your children and not reflect on the ways that you are not allowing for your own sovereignty? Right? Like, what are we still controlled by? What are we still?
So much. It's okay, parents. It's okay. We're doing our best. It's not okay to hurt our kids. But it's a lifetime. It's a long distance.
But it happens, right? Like, it happens.
You gotta work it.
Yeah. And there's, for me, it's like, I'm not gonna shame a parent who hurt their child out of a sense of desesperación, right? Like out of desperation, and you are in a state of your brain where you are just so disconnected from your body. You have, you're triggered, or I call it activated, right? You're activated in a way that you can't really see what's happening outside of just the anger and the rage. I have an extreme compassion for that, because I have said things to my children from that place that were hurtful, right? I have a hard time reconciling when people say, yeah, that's the way to do it. Like, yeah, let's do it that way, because they don't listen otherwise. I'm so, how can they? And I'm just like, there's so much. And also I can't shame them into, like, I can't be like, you are a bad parent, you are a bad person, because you're already telling yourself.
Is done.
The conversation is done. The conversation is finished. And you already actually believe that, because you believe that a child can be bad, which to me tells me that you believe that you can be bad, right? And that's painful. Like, it's painful when we equate accountability with blame and shame, right? Like that's a painful experience. And that's a long road for some people.
There's so much. I love it. That's why I love the concept that I feel blessed to. Another father figure for me, Thich Nhat Hanh. I never met him. Beautiful teacher. What a wonderful man. If you ever get a chance, look YouTube videos and see Thich Nhat Hanh speak with children, and they ask him questions.
My friend Maria is here. She's like the biggest fan. One day I got her a Thich Nhat Hanh library.
Yes.
Please drop it. I saw her like dropping the references in the chat. So if you want to drop Thich Nhat Hanh's name, because you probably won't be able to find it if you just do it with your. Yeah. See, people are like, how do you spell his name?
Someone will
anyway, but please keep sharing.
Oh man, what was I gonna say about? Sorry. No, it's okay. He has a wonderful video you can find on YouTube, but it's Buddhist psychology, thousands of years. Draws a circle in the beautiful, mindful way he does. Boom. He says, "This is, our mind." He draws a line in the middle, subconscious and the conscious, and we have all the seeds of all emotions inside of us, and different situations water those seeds. Whoop. And sometimes we consume to not feel these strong seeds that come up. So I know my seeds. Feeling alone, unheard. This is from childhood things. Anger is really a cover for sadness, a real deep sadness that this society is unjust sometimes, that things don't feel just sometimes. And that's connected to childhood things too, that loneliness and not being heard. So these seeds are strong, but I have other seeds too. Curiosity, love. And so I just try to water those seeds. We water those seeds. We water those seeds with just right now. If people are sitting, watching this video, we can just sit up and relax your shoulders and breathe and be a good listener. And that already connects our spine and blesses our spine, which is connected to our nervous system, which is heavily impacted right now. And so we just calm and we're good. And we get a little bit more and a little more wind under your wings, and we keep going. And then you can see beyond what's happening right now and the binary arguments and this and that. And we're like, later for y'all, we're going to take care of ourselves. We're going to take care of ourselves. And some of that y'all have, that's ours too. So give it back over here. Things like that, bien simple, but it starts with our wonderful blessing of our breath. And that's Thich Nhat Hanh is, I feel blessed to have, in a moment of suffering. I remember walking into Melody, we were driving two different cars. We were at the Bank of America on Main over there. Got out the car and I was just crying. Melody was like, what the hell's going on? And I was like, I'm suffering. I need to do something about this. And I go to the meditation center down by San Diego and did a New Year's retreat. It was wonderful. It was tough as hell. All I had to do was just be quiet and breathe. Why was that hard?
I don't know, but it is hard. It is hard. I had like a moment where I was like, oh man, I'm like, it's like school trauma, right? Where I'm like, oh, I haven't been doing my assignments because my teacher, Hector, I'm in your meditation challenge. I signed up for this round. I've done it twice before. And the 2 other times I at least did it for like half of the days, right? I was like, I was pretty good. I would sit down at like 11 every night and I would do it for as long as I could until I got like too heavy and sleepy feeling. And then I would go to sleep. But this time I've done it like 1 time. And so I was like, oh, I'm in trouble. Like I'm not, but I'm not. But then when I called you yesterday, when we talked at the beginning of the phone call, I was like, you know what, my meditations actually lately have felt really good to be walking. Right? Because it's so rare, not rare, but like it's been cold outside and like I really value the sunshine right now. So when the sunshine
it's been really foggy. Yeah.
It's been it's been very cloudy. And so I walk out when the sun is out just to like feel that sunshine and notice, right? Like meditation can look different ways. The slowing down and the stopping and the really, feeling into your body, that is so much harder for me than just going and, being very present with the animals that come, with the flowers, the plants that make themselves known, the sky, the sun, like, yes, the mindfulness for me is pretty easy. The meditation, it is hard. I get antsy, I get very uncomfortable. There's so much discomfort with being still. I can do it better in community, which I think is why what you are doing is so, so valuable. And I just haven't because there's a million things happening. But I want you to tell us more about that work. Like tell us more. And then we're going to go to Q&A because there are a few questions I have.
We're talking and talking and we got 15 minutes.
I know. And I'm good to stay a little bit later. Obviously, if you need to go, this is going to be recorded and provided to you afterwards anyway. But I would love to hear more about the 30-day meditation practice. That is just one aspect of Peace Inside Out. You run it with Melody Gonzalez, who is a comadre of mine and also does beautiful healing work. I have to bring her in. I'm like, maybe not Brown Fatherhood, but like just like I want to hear from Melody too at some point in this space. Pero tell us more about the work that you do.
Yeah. Well, Peace Inside Out is the aspiration and the path, or what we say is path is through arts, restoration, community, and health. Arts is wind element, visionary. We teach poetry. And we have the project called Taller Bula, Puerto Rican Bomba, workshops, performances, presentation. So that's arts. Restoration is what people call restorative justice. But we expand the idea to restoration, to restore our sacred self, to restore harmed relationships, to restore our connection to nature. And that's a water element, cool-headedness of water. And then so that's AR. C is community. How do we build community? An important pillar. We're working on ourselves, but we can use a good friend that says, you're dope, you're awesome. Stay with that. And so to become a good pillar, we have to build that strength. And so we build that through learning together, and we build that through being together. So education and events, bombazos, bailes de bombas, education. We craft curriculum for nonprofits and organizations, leadership curriculums, etc. And the last part is health, fire element, the fire inside of us, using our own fire to heal ourselves and to thrive and to get better and to heal. And so one of the things when I was suffering, and having a hard time and trying to figure out what's happening in my relationship, in my marriage, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go in and I'm going to practice. And I'm going to practice being mindful, and I'm going to do that. And I said, 21 days is good. They say to break a habit, so to speak. I'm going to use words and affirmations to reprogram my mind. And it's going to be self-study. I'm going to look at the chakras. The first chakra, my root chakra. I am rooted and secure. And I'm going to use that mantra. And I'm going to look for 3 days. What's going on with my root chakra? Why, noticing myself, do I feel not rooted and secure in situations, and why? Is this an old story? And so reflecting on that way, go to the next chakra for 21 days. We're just on the second to last day of the 21 days, and we're on the crown chakra. I shared with folks yesterday just a saying in Ifa and Santeria, wear
Mhm.
your crown, stop kicking it around.
Mm.
Head up, wear your crown.
Yeah. And
So
all of it's
yeah,
WhatsApp also, like that's where
yes.
you're communicating.
I was telling people yesterday, I was cracking up because they were enjoying it. We had a great check-in and there was some really good openings, and several people shared like, I've been wanting to text in the chat and I haven't, I keep erasing it. And now I know I just need to just engage, and this is helpful because I did one of these, I do this often. I was like, oh, okay, what is something that what seed you want to plant right now? We're in winter, what seed do you want to plant for the spring? We're closed in, we don't, we're worried about getting COVID or this or that. And sometimes we just stop everything, but we can
Yeah.
continue planting seeds. Entonces, Ayan Lavanzan, thank you. We're planting seeds. And so I said, what seed do you want to plant? And then I said, okay, I'll be right back. Y me escapo, and I leave them for themselves. Dale ustedes. And they shared some stuff. I don't know. I'm telling just a story about getting all excited about that. I told them this.
Yeah.
You know what I say with them? This is what I was getting at in my long grandpa story was
Because you're a grandpa now.
It is. I can tell long stories, and you all have to forgive me, okay? And so I said, and it's only $21. I told them, I was like, people don't even know. But it's also no frills. It's like, when you come and you practice with us, you're gonna feel the practice, because I'm gonna be sending Reiki. I'm gonna be doing a guided meditation that's changes slightly to what's happening in that moment. And for me, it's a blessing. I get to show up and practice for 21 days. And it's been almost 3 years now doing that. 3 years every month. So it's a blessing. Come join us. It's just one of the practices we have. Our doors are wide open, from practicing arts and bomba to restorative justice to events to Reiki, detox. I'm excited. And it's all about being a freaking, you do it?
The whole year, because I'm like, I have to, this is like my intention this year is so much of what it was last year también, right? I'm just like, I want to deepen my understanding, all of that. But I feel like where I find myself in disintegration is in that quieting down, in that listening to my body, like in that, and I have, a relatively okay practice, but every practice could be sharper, right? Like every practice can be sharpened. And the only way that I can sharpen my practices is from that community that you're building. And so I'm like, I'm just gonna, like you said yesterday.
And now we do it at 6:30 in the morning too. So every
no,
day,
and I'm just like, oh,
I open the door wide. I'm like, all right, people not showing up. Watch this.
That's
I'll invite
9:30
you.
East Coast, so that should be easy for some people. But for me, I'm just like 6:30. I just went to bed.
Yeah, some people are not. That's all. I got you at night or in the morning. You got choices. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, I would love to have Violeta come back in here. I know that we got some good questions in the Q&A. She's going to pick a few of them. I'm wondering, Hector, if you would be willing to, the ones that we don't get to, we can copy and paste into some kind of like email back to you, and then you can just record the answer.
I'd love to. I don't mind. I love you. Yo hablo mucho.
Hey, Vio.
Hola, that was really great. Thank you so much. Yeah, so we do have a couple of questions. There's one that a couple that I'm gonna kind of join together, kind of having to do with emotions, like how do you stay on the positive path, or like how do you stay, which to me it's like, how do you stay emotionally regulated? How do you continue with that? With another one that talked about how did you work on your relationship to tears through fatherhood? Often that question I find is rooted. It's like, ooh, tears can be difficult in certain situations. So how do you, did you get to this point to be able to process and accept your emotions in the way that you have?
Oh man. I mean, I tell this to everybody. I mean, just sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Emotions, you know what? Learning about emotions is important. Emotions are just energy that wants to be expressed. And so we learn all types of different stories to not express an emotion. You know, like you can actually say, I'm angry, and like that's natural. It's a natural thing to sometimes be angry. But what happens is we have this seed of anger that hasn't been looked at for a long time. That seed is big, it's a big tree. Another piece of anger comes and it's like, "Wah!" And we told all types of stories, you know. Tear ducts, everyone has a tear duct. What's a tear duct for? To cry. It's important to release the emotions that are in our heart and to let these tears come down. It's okay. Yo soy un llorón. I don't care. I cry, I laugh, I curse sometimes. But it's about mindfulness in a good way. Like, what is happening right now? And the future thought of worry keeps us from being here right now. Shame, guilt, anger at something that happened the other day keeps us from being here right now and seeing that there are ways that life supports you, that life wants you to grow, that life wants you to be well. Just like, yeah, someone's cue Maestro Jerry Teo right now, he should be calling in. That's right. Boom. He's a great maestro. I
Yes,
love
we're gonna have him in 2 semanas, so come back and maybe he'll, yeah.
So, perdona, ¿qué tú piensas, Leslie? Tanto que decir para esto, ¿verdad?
Yeah, I mean, that could be like, we could have like Hector talking about emociones for the full hour next time. I think that noticing, right? Just like the noticing is so powerful, and the
Awareness.
naming and the identifying where that's happening sometimes is a lot of communication, right? So like if I'm experiencing an emotion and that emotion is feeling like my throat is apretado, you know, like my throat is tight, then I know it's related to something that I'm not saying that needs to be said, right? And so like my job is for my emotions and for my children's emotions to be able to guide them towards identifying like where in your body are you experiencing that contraction, right? A lot of it also is in our gut.
That's right.
And so that is not something that I grew up with, right? I wasn't really given that like fine-tuned context for how to understand my emotions, and it's still something, and it's something I'm learning, right? And the other thing is just like patience with that process, because sometimes I feel like I have my emotions figured out and I'm like, okay, that's what's happening, this is what needs to be done to change it, this is how I'm going to move forward, and then again, you know, and I'm just like, there's a frustration that happens with the speed at which I'm healing, right? Like I'm just like, I thought I
We're
healed
judging
this.
ourselves. Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
there's judgment, there's self-judgment with those emotions. It's just like, I shouldn't be angry, I shouldn't be sad, I shouldn't, like, oh, look, and we have so much invalidation all around, like, oh, what do you have to be sad about? Look around, you know, you have all these things. So, and it's not about not being grateful, but also, you know, honoring what's happening, because it is happening, right? Like that is what is alive in you at that moment. So I don't know. Yeah, this could be a much longer topic. ¿Qué más, Violeta? What else is coming?
Awareness. Yeah.
Yes.
There was a question that came in Spanish. So I'm going to read it in Spanish and then I'll do my best about translating. Dice, como madre estoy viviendo una separación por violencia psicológica. ¿Qué debo hacer para que mi hija experimente y honre? ¿Qué debo hacer para que mi hija experimente y honre su parentesco paterno? Pero que entienda que esa parte tóxica de su papá no la debe de aceptar, ni en él ni en otro hombre cuando crezca. Solo tiene 7 años. So this question, yeah, the mother's having a separation with her partner because of psychological violence. She wants to know how to teach her to honor her father without accepting the toxic parts of him, neither in him or in any other man. She wants to know what she can do to support that process. Her daughter's only 7 years old.
I don't know the answer. The best answer I have for that is the more mindfulness and self-love you have for yourself, your daughter's going to see that and then continue to trust you. The more you work out what this feels, how is this related to my self-love, and you made a move, boom, I'm not going to accept this anymore. And that's beautiful. And this man may be learning or not. I don't know who the man is or who the partner is. Hopefully they also learning more self-love and a self-awareness. But your daughter's looking up to you, and they're going to see your calmness and the more you work that self-love and your cariño. And yeah, these conversations are not easy, but the more you can just do it from a place of like a solid tree, then the more your daughter will grow, and there's no need to have fear, and try to control, like, this is gonna happen. She's gonna love her father too, who's abusive. You already made a beautiful step to end the abuse. I don't want this abuse. That's not an easy step. So that's already wonderful. You can go like this. Woo, woo.
Beautiful. Thank you. I think maybe one more question and then I'll move to close, but I did just copy and paste everything into an email I'll send you later, Hector. So anything that did not get answered, and also please remember to follow Peace Inside Out. Hector, if you want to share your personal, also just such a good, incredible organization led by amazing people. Like, you really have to keep a pulse on what Hector and Melody are doing because it's powerful, really powerful. So we'll drop those tags in the chat, and they're on our Instagram. They're all over our Instagram right now. So yeah, one more question, and then we'll give you the floor to speak whatever else, Hector.
Hector, you speak of having good instincts, but we all know that parenting doesn't come with a manual. How can we become better aware and more confident of having good instincts in the moment and not after the fact?
I remember hearing, watching, what's his name? Wayne Dyer. He was Wayne Dyer, right? He was being interviewed about something. He was talking that he called somebody for help, and the person always said the same thing. He was calling Deepak Chopra. What's his last name? Chopra, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, he called him for help, and then Deepak would say the same thing. He would say the same thing. Meditate. That's my answer to everything. Get in touch with yourself. Meditate. Self-awareness is one of the main things that'll help in anything. Calming the mind. Please forgive me for sounding arrogant, but I really totally believe that our 21-day meditation challenge is such a good program of how to meditate. We take people who've never meditated, and in their first day, they're meditating 30 minutes. They say, I can't do it. Yes, because it's a wonderful practice. It's just an easy thing. And Thich Nhat Hanh's a great teacher. And I love teaching and sharing. And it's just real simple. So that's one of the best ways, I think, is self-awareness through calming the mind, like a good scientist. A scientist does surgery, can't be mindless and be like, oh, listening to whatever corridos right now. Oh, sorry. No, you got to be mindful and ready and calming the mind and the body, all these things interconnected. And in the same way, as a parent, the more we practice this mindfulness, breathing in and out through our nose as a good listener is one easy step. When a child says something, just earlier, I ask a question and then my son asks, why? And I'm like, oh, man. Because that's why. I didn't say that in my mind. It was because that's why, okay? And then I go flashback to being a child, and I'm like, oh, okay. He's curious, and he's also very self-determined. Why? That's good. That's good.
That's
but
critical.
it brushes up on me sometimes, like when I'm rushing, when I'm not mindful, when I'm heightened already, then my answer is gonna be, well, because. And he's like looking at me like, that's not an answer, dude.
Yeah.
I hope I answered in some kind of way. Meditate.
And in conclusion, yes, anything else that you would like to share as, inspiration or something that you want people to sit with a little bit longer, beyond what we've already shared, which all of it has been so powerful. What would you like to leave everybody here with? We had up to 120 something people at one point come in, and
Nice.
we're, moving on to the next parts of their day, but would love to just hear something that they can, carry.
Yeah, definitely. Two things. To me, whether you identify as a man, a woman, whether you identify asexual, whether you identify whatever you identify as, what's important is to identify what values are important to you, what seeds. A man can be nurturing. A man can be loving. A man can be soft. A man can be brave and courageous. A man can be afraid. A woman can be all those things too, as can a child. It's for everyone. So be aware of what your important seeds are. That really drives how we see the world. In my opinion, culture, this is a crazy definition, but it's covered, it's going to be recorded. Culture is the dynamic negotiation between subconscious and conscious, individual and collective values. Rewind. Dynamic negotiation sometimes is a fight, sometimes it's not, but it's something we're working out. It's dynamic. Culture is always alive between subconscious. Sometimes we're not aware that we accept this value in our lives, and sometimes we're conscious. And it's individual as well as collective. And that to me is what culture is. And so the other second thing I was going to share is for us to be warriors. What is a warrior but someone who's unafraid to expose their hearts? They're not afraid. Some of the most embattled human beings are the most gentle. And so if we're aggressive all the time, we're just afraid. Jerry Theo taught me that.
Yes.
So I'll sing for him. La cultura cura y eso es la verdad. Toca y canta y baila, somos comunidad plena.
I'm going to send this to him right after this. And be like, Maestro,
right.
you have to, you had some shout outs in here. And he will be here, in a couple weeks. I hope that you tune into that one, Hector. One of the things that we did last year was, and I was like, I'm not sure we're going to do this or not, but I do want you to, all of the Brown Fatherhood series participants, including the ones from last year, at some point there has to be some kind of gathering, some kind of community.
Father's Day.
And you and I talk more about, maybe, right? Like you and I can talk more about what that looks like. Violeta also as, the Chingona Director of Communications on the Latinx Parenting Team. Woo, woo. But yes, definitely want to continue having this conversation with you, with Maestro Jerry, with Dr. Manuel, who's at the end, and then with Efrain, who I think I saw in here in the chat also. So would love everybody to attend everybody's. And thank you.
And thanks to the interpreters all the way in Hawaii.
Yes, thank you, Lorena de la Vega, Lorena Rincon. They have been with us for a year now. They did the last Brown Fatherhood series for us. So thank you all so much for sharing this conversation. Also, feel free to continue to share the flyer on Instagram. Take a picture of like us right now if you want to.
That's right.
And share it on your IG so that people can know that these things are happening. It's so valuable. These voices are so valuable and important. Yes.
And chancla culture. I love it. Hashtag. That's right.
In chancla culture. And chancla culture is colonizer culture in the home. So
hashtag Puerto Rico Libre. Boom.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Hector. Thank you. I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to attend one of the Bomba Círculos. I've been wanting to for so long. I've like seen the pictures and I'm like, I have to be there.
Let's do it. We got some events coming up in the spring for sure.
Yes, absolutely. I will be there. And then tell Melody I say hello. I love you. I will get back to her message. I'm like, I still haven't gotten back to her. I feel bad, but give her a big hug and a kiss from me. And Violeta, anything else that I'm forgetting?
No, that covers it. Thank you so much. This is great.
Have a good weekend, everyone. Thank you for inviting us. Peace Inside Out. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you all for being here. Adios.
Mm-hmm.